Why are you looking to buy a second-hand car? Is it just to love the thing that you own? Do you want to have one last fling during the swan song of the internal combustion engine? Maybe, at some point, you're hoping your pride and joy might make you some money. All are perfectly valid reasons to be on the lookout. But the cars that can fulfill 1, 2, or even 3 of these ideals get more valuable with every passing year. We've already spoken about being in the nice position of having £100,000 to spend. But what if you're in the more realistic realms of, say, half that figure? What could be yours for far less than the price of a new M4? Here's a few cars that will, for now, cost you less than £50,000. And if while you're watching this video at some point you think to yourself, well, it's pretty good this, you know what, they've done well, hit that like button. And then subscribe to the channel and make sure you click on the bell icon so you see everything from Goodwood Road and Racing. The majority of examples of Renault's modern take on the Alpine A110 are bobbing around above our £50,000 limit. But some, just a wonderful few, are still sat inside our budget. So, we'll give it a pass through the entry gates. But how can a car that's still being made make it onto this list? Can it be a potential investment? Well, the answer is quite simply down to a mixture of how long the waiting list for an A110 is, how many Alpine are able to actually clip together in Dieppe, and how you feel about Alpine's long-term future. Plans are already afoot for the post-A110 all-electric Renault tuning future of Alpine, so the fact that Alpines are outsold in significant numbers by cars that are considerably less desirable makes this one to bag if you ever get your chance. Whatever does happen, there aren't a lot of A110s on the market, and to say it has been a critical success would be underplaying it. The press, us included, have fallen over themselves to praise the A110, and even Gordon Murray himself gave it the seal of approval by becoming an incredibly enthusiastic owner. So, there's a heavy amount of demand over its supply, which means that if you see one, buy it. If you do, you'll be rewarded with one of the best handling, most fun to drive cars of the century, and although not exactly rocketing up the all-time list yet, you'll have a car that can only gain value. As certain as death and taxes is the fact that at some point, the price of what you had nailed on as your affordable Porsche 911 will have shot up and disappeared way out of sight. It normally happens just when you've made your mind up that now is the time. Out comes your wallet, up pops Auto Trader, and into the floor go your 911 dreams. So we sit with the 997. Right now, there are plenty of cheap cabriolets, Tiptronics, Targas and the like, but the moment you try and find that Carrera 2 Coupe, the car you actually want, and poof, they're all gone. If you do find one, it's likely to have gone up by £10,000 or so from the last time you looked. The debate about which 911 represents the line's peak of development is never ending, but the 997 is in with a damn good shot. Compare it against its successors, all bigger, more complicated, and much more, in Porsche's own words, digital. The 997 seems delightfully compact and straightforward. It's almost inevitable that you won't make your mind up until 997s have all disappeared, but right now, they're there, so go live that 911 dream soon. As supercar power numbers get more and more absurd, remembering that 500, 600 and even 1,000 horsepower is now in the rear window in some cases, the ability to actually enjoy them in the real world has diminished. As such, the Alfa Romeo 4C seems like the perfect antidote. In 2013, the horsepower wars were less silly, but they were still getting out of hand, and even then, a small sports car from Alfa Romeo seemed perfect, especially after they finally fixed those headlights. It has the looks, the exotic carbon fibre construction, a famous badge of extraordinary heritage, and a power-to-weight ratio that would be usable on, of all things, a road. But something just didn't fit. Maybe it was the pure and unapologetic rawness of it, or maybe it was those headlights. Either way, it never really took off like, say, the Elise. It's now more exotic than any Lotus, but the latter is more satisfying and desirable today. However, over the years, there have been mods developed to make a 4C as good, if not better, than an Elise, and while they're rare, so prices have stayed just about affordable. And As the rarity increases, so will the price. As we showed you recently, there's a new version of the three-wheeler incoming. No matter what Morgan calls it, there's a new Morgan three-wheeler on the way. Production of the last one ended last year, and over 2,000 have been sold. For a three-wheeled car with a V-twin slung out the front, that's a big number. But values remain strong even if you bought one of the very first reborn ones a decade ago. The three-wheeler may be newer than the originals, but it's still a hoot. Tiny, open to the elements, and with power going through a wheel that's skinnier than a book of cars that we at GR&R don't like. And that V-twin is derived from a Harley, so the characteristic thud-thud of that air-cooled motor is a joy to hear. A recurring theme here is cars that give you something that you just don't get today. An analog 911 is cool, a sliding A110 brilliant, but the Morgan just spanks all of them in the stuff you don't get in the future stakes. And that's why they're still £35,000. If you're looking for a fun sunny day car, and having driven one of these in the hail, I can advise that you really don't, this will do your money proud. These were cheaper not so long ago, blah blah blah, missed the boat, etc, etc. But how many chances will you have to buy a V8 powered, manually transmissioned, beautifully designed supercar for no more than a Hyundai SUV? If you like the sound of an all-aluminium mid-engine junior sports car with a high-revving atmospheric V8 and a gated manual gearbox, you need to act quickly. The original R8 remains a bit of a high point for modern fast cars. A good intersection between enough power to be potent but retaining some engagement for the driver. The 420 horsepower 4.2 litre V8 is a masterpiece and, although completely outgunned today, it is more than you really need. It also feels faster than most new 911s this side of a turbo and, she pretty. You could also move up to the V10 for proper performance, but we'd argue that the V8 with a self-catering transmission is exactly what anyone who loves cars wants. Oh, and just look at that price again. Going once, going twice. Every generation of SL has at some point turned out to be a second-hand slow burner, especially compared to those rear-engine sports cars from Stuttgart. You just have to look at the way values for Pagodas and R107s from the 70s and 80s meandered in the affordable range for years before skyrocketing. There is, and always will be, a loyal fan base for Mercedes' definitive open-topped cruiser. The R129 was a big break from the traditional SL, with hard-edged design lines, and they've gone unappreciated and arguably undervalued for years, but time has been kind to its looks, and today it feels like a refined and elegant design. Values, of course, are therefore now on the up. You've most likely missed the boat on a really cheap one, but they just about remain affordable, so grab one if you long for a taste of German soft-top cruising. Yeah. How do you put a price on an old Defender or Series Land Rover? I don't really know. Which is great in a film about second-hand car values. But we'll soldier on. Because you can pick up plenty of Defenders in this price range. You just need to be careful. Values meander so much due to the sheer variety of conditions. Even the old wrecks dragged out of the undergrowth of farms and fields the world over are now valuable assets ripe for expensive restorations, while more recent ones range from rough ex-working vehicles to six-figure specials laden with leather and other trimmings. There is a growing nostalgia for the old Defender, and anything in this shape has an enduring appeal. You just need to look at how much the new Defender annoys people, despite being great, and that Ineos is building what's definitely not just a new version of it for those angry people. If you like Landies, then a good priced one, carefully inspected for rust, will reward you with the love and probably value. There really isn't a shortage of fast M-badge BMWs available at this price, but none of the others have this mix of enduring critical acclaim, limited supply, and genuine, riotously good performance. It shocked us to realise that you can just about squeak a 1M in for less than £50,000. Honestly, we don't understand it. £50,000 might sound a lot for a used BMW 1 Series, but the 1M is so good that prices never really managed to drop below £40,000. So to still be in this range is pretty stunning. The 1M was rightly praised by those who know what they're talking about. It is one of the best fast BMWs ever made and feels like exactly what it is, an after-hours project car for some enthusiastic engineers that somehow managed to be signed off by someone further up the chain. Collectors will spend their time chasing low-mileage ones, but just let them. Go find one that's ready to use and enjoy and has been looked after by someone who cares, and the value is just unbelievable. A double-edged sword. The rotary engine that makes RX badged Mazdas so appealing is also the one thing that scares off potential owners. Even when they work, they burn through hideous amounts of both oil and fuel, and the reputation for fragility can mean that it really is when they work. But Porsches aren't averse to that either. There aren't many RX-7s around, but the beauty is more than skin deep, and under those gorgeous lines many say the final FD version is equally stunning to drive. The buzz of that engine is genuinely unique, and a two-stage turbocharging system delivered excellent and exciting power. The handling and controls are also delightful. Beautiful, great to drive, fascinating and rare. Go and get one now. Especially before US import rules mean they all drift away across the pond. Those are just some cars that are worth less than £50,000 right now that you should grab. Ones to enjoy, ones to really cherish. But what car are you going to buy? Let us know in the comments below.